Princess Vera stood before the wide viewport and watched the quiet field of stars. The glass curved like the eye of a giant creature. It showed a deep black sea with white sparks scattered across it. The royal flagship drifted at patrol speed, lights soft, engines humming like a low song. Officers spoke in gentle tones. Screens glowed with clean lines of numbers and comm graphs. Everything looked controlled, elegant, and sure. It was the world the Elantar Dominion liked best. Ordered, precise, and proud. Vera wore a mantle of thin silver cloth over her high-collared uniform. Her hair was braided up in the noble style of her house. She held a tablet, but she did not look at it. She watched the stars and thought about her duty. She was the heir, and the border war had returned after years of quiet. The enemy was not strong, but it was stubborn. It used tricks, small raids, and fear. The Dominion had answers for all of that, of course. Strategy, training, numbers, yet the war refused to end. That was annoying. That was messy. Vera disliked messy things. Her advisor, Lord Care, stood a respectful distance behind her. He was a thin elder with clear eyes and a careful voice. "Your Highness," he said, "our scouts detected a stray contact beyond the drift lane. It is a very old signal. Pre-Dominion tags. The patrol has sent a drone. They ask if you wish to see the feed." "Put it here," she said, and the viewport ghosted with a square of image. The picture showed a small, dark ship. Its hull bore scrapes and burn marks. The design was strange, angular, not graceful. It had no visible shields. Its engines looked like simple metal pipes. Vera narrowed her eyes. "What am I seeing?" "An archaic vessel," Lord Care said. "Records say the shape is Terran, human. There are many myths about them." Vera smiled a little. "Yes, the old stories the tutors like to whisper. Humans who fought with fire in their hands. Humans who could not be predicted by any machine." She gestured in the air. "A legend to keep children awake at night, and to make them study tactics." "The power signature matches a human reactor model," Lord Care said. "If the drone is correct, show me more." The drone approached the ship. The hull plating had numbers on the side. Us, Dauntless. The lettering was faded and crooked, like it had been painted by hand. Everything about the craft felt wrong to Vera. It felt like something built in a cave. Built fast, and sent out into danger with hope alone. A slow chill ran down her neck. She did not like old relics. They brought unpredictable ideas. "Is there life aboard?" she asked. "Faint signs," Lord Care said. "A stasis signal flickers every 8 seconds. It may be a degraded cryo unit." "A human?" she asked. He hesitated. "Possibly." Vera kept her voice calm. "Send a boarding team. Bring back whatever breathes. If it is alive, it will speak. If it cannot speak, its body will still tell us something." "As you command." The boarding team moved out in sleek pods. They crossed the quiet void and locked onto the old ship. The drone feed cut to a dark corridor. The light from the team's helmets slid over bare wires and patched metal. The air looked dusty. It felt like walking into a place that should not exist. The commander's voice, crisp and careful, filled the flagship's bridge. "Entry complete. Atmosphere is thin and stale. We detect one functioning cryochamber." The feed showed a small chamber. Frost lay on the glass like a thin film of snow. Inside, a human face rested in the cold blue light. The face was lean. The jaw was square, marked by a thin old scar. Hair was dark and cut very short. The eyes were closed. The boarding commander spoke again. "Name on the chamber tag. Captain Elias Ward. Vital signs are weak, but present. The system is at failure risk. We can stabilize him here for a short time, or bring him at once." "Bring him," Vera said. Carefully, she turned away from the viewport. She did not want the crew to see her thoughts on her face. Inside, she was annoyed at herself. Why did her heart beat a little faster? Why did a thin line of fear run through her body at the sight of a single sleeping creature? She did not believe in legends. She believed in facts. Vera walked to the medical ward with a small escort. The ward was bright and clean. The air smelled faintly of salt and metal. Doctors in soft white coats waited with calm hands. They moved the human chamber into an isolation field. The field shimmered like heat above a road. The doctors checked the machines and nodded. The cryoglass rolled back with a soft sigh. The man on the table breathed. It was a rough, uneven breath. His eyes opened. They were gray-blue and steady, even in confusion. He looked at the ceiling, then to the left, then to the right. He did not thrash. He did not scream. He moved his fingers, then his hands. As if he was counting his body's parts and making sure they were still his, Vera stepped closer. "You are on the royal flagship of the Alentar Dominion," she said in calm, simple words. "You are safe. Do you understand me?" He stared at her for a quiet moment. "Yes," he said. His voice was low and dry. "Water." A doctor brought a cup. He drank in slow gulps, as if he had learned not to waste. He handed the cup back. "Thank you," he said, and then he met Vera's eyes. He looked at her with quiet interest, not fear. That surprised her more than anything. "What is your name?" she asked, though she already knew. "Elias Ward," he said. "Captain, United Human Systems Navy, or what's left of it." "How old are you?" he thought. "Older than I should be?" He looked around. His gaze measured the room the way a builder measures a wall. He looked at the guards. He looked at the isolation field. He seemed to map everything in his head. "How long was I out?" "We do not know yet," Vera said. "Please answer our questions first. You are a guest of the Dominion?" He gave a small half-smile. "Guest, that's one word for it." "Do you know what happened to your ship?" "Yes," he said. "It kept moving forward." "Where is Earth?" she asked. He watched her. Something shifted in his eyes. It was not anger. It was not grief. It was the quiet space between those two things. "Gone," he said softly. "Under dust or under silence. I do not know which. I keep hoping for an answer. I keep finding empty space." Vera felt the room tighten around that one word, gone. Her mind wanted to pick it apart. Was he lying? Was he mistaken? A myth could not be so small. A whole people could not vanish like smoke. That was bad story logic. Stories should make sense. She folded her hands behind her back. "You will be kept here while we learn more," she said. "Our doctors will care for you. There will be questions later." "I expected questions," he said. "Do not try to leave the field," she added. He nodded once. Understood. She left the ward and walked back through the halls with her escort. Officers lined the corridor. They kept their eyes forward. She felt their curiosity like heat. By the time she reached the command deck, a quiet buzz had spread. It was not fear, not yet. It was something more exciting and more dangerous. It was the hope that myths were real. On the bridge, Lord Care met her with clipped steps. "Your Highness," he said, "some officers wish to see the human. They say it would improve training to observe a legend." "Legends are for storytellers," Vera said. "We are officers. We are not children, of course." She studied the tactical display. The border lanes glowed, a web of hard lines. Patrols moved slow and steady. Beacon stations marked safe paths. On the edge of the map, thin red indicators pulsed, rebel signals. They were small, but they had teeth. Vera's jaw tightened. She needed to end this disorder. Then the message indicator blinked on her console. "Incoming signal from Beacon 13, the COM officer said. "Emergency code. Put it through." The screen showed a tired officer with dust on his face. "Princess," he said. "We have multiple unknowns on long range. They are not using Dominion signatures. They are masking their thrust. The beacon is not armed for this. Please advise how far?" Vera asked. "For minutes at burn." Lord Care looked at Vera. He did not look worried. He never looked worried. "A raid on a beacon is unconventional," he said softly. Vera's thoughts moved quickly. If the rebels took Beacon 13, They would blind the lane for half a sector. That would force all patrols to route around a longer path. That would scatter her order. Messy. Unacceptable. Battle stations, she said. We burned to the beacon. Prepare to defend. Alarms rang in clear tones. Crews moved with smooth urgency. The ship's engines woke in a calm surge. The stars outside the viewport shifted as the flagship turned and accelerated. Vera placed her hand on the rail beside her chair. She felt the deep vibration of power through the metal. It felt like a bowstring pulled back and ready. As the flagship neared Beacon 13, the sensor board filled with contacts. 10 small raiders. A larger command ship behind them. They moved in a loose swarm like a flock of birds. They were not in clean lines, and that made Vera's skin itch. Their pattern allowed flexibility. It also allowed confusion. She preferred adversaries who picked a nice straight line and politely failed in it. Open a channel to the beacon, Vera said. Tell them to harden shields and cut non-essential systems. The rebel ships spread out. A few broke formation and dived low to the beacon's shadow. It was a clever move. They would hide in sensor clutter. Vera gave orders in a steady voice. Bring our forward shields to full. Roll left 15 degrees. Keep distance. Their goal is to spread us thin. In the secondary defense room, Ward stepped back from the rail and exhaled once. He had not moved much, but he looked as if he had gone very far. The guard looked at him thoughtfully. The defense officer tapped her ear and spoke, Your Highness, interception complete. No injuries. The boarders surrendered. Understood, Vera said. Her voice remained even, but an edge of wonder slipped in despite herself. Bring Captain Ward to the bridge. No? The guards led Ward through the spine channel to the lift, then up to the main bridge. Vera stood straight at the front, hands behind her back. She expected many things from this meeting. She expected arrogance. She expected a lecture. She expected a performance. Ward stepped onto the bridge and stopped. He looked at the stars, then at the people, then at Vera. He did not bow. He did not puff up. He stood like a person at ease in a hard place. Captain Ward, Vera said, you predicted their move. I have seen that pattern. Many times, you spoke as if you led my crew. I made suggestions, he said. Your officer made the calls. Vera studied him. She was good at reading the small things, the flicker of an eye, the angle of a shoulder, the rhythm of breath. Ward's face did not try to impress. His eyes were tired but bright. Everything about him felt grounded. She felt a strange sense of balance near him, as if the floor held steady under her feet in a new way. You knew we would. Not like your advice, she said. I assumed you didn't bring me up here for manners, he said. Few officers looked away to hide small smiles. Lord Care's mouth made the shape of a half-amused, half-worried line. Why are you like this? Vera asked, and heard her own question with surprise. She had not planned to say it. Why do humans fight as if the world owes them nothing and gives them everything at once? Why do you think in angles we do not see? Ward took a breath. He looked at the viewport and the quiet stars. We learn to live with less, he said. That is one answer. We learn to keep moving even when the map goes dark. That is another. His voice softened. We also learn that fear is loud. It wants to run your hands. So we make our hands quiet. We do small, clear things. We do the next right thing. Then the next. Vera felt something in her chest change shape. It was not surrender. It was not belief. It was the opening of a door she had not known was there. The tactical board pinged. The rebels were gone beyond the edge of the beacon's range. The calm of order returned, but it felt different now. It felt like a calm earned in a new way. Captain Ward, she said, careful again, formal again. You will return to medical for full review. After that, there will be questions. Many questions. I expected that, he said. She tilted her head. If you tried to escape, would you succeed? He looked at the guards, then the ceiling, then her. He smiled a little. No, he said. I am not strong yet, and I do not know your halls. That is wise, she said. He nodded. Princess Vera, he added in a quiet tone, thank you for not letting your ship chase ghosts. That saved lives. Lives. The word hung between them, large and simple. Vera did not reply to that. She gestured for the guards, and they led him away. After he left, Lord Care stepped close. He spoke low, so only she would hear. You allowed a myth to speak. It helped it did, she said. What will you do with him? Learn, she said, and then decide. She stood at the viewport again. The stars were the same. The ship hummed the same. But the story in her head had changed. Humans were not ghosts. They were not prayers or warnings. They were not heroes carved in marble. They were something else, something real. Real things are harder and more interesting than legends. Hours passed. The crew relaxed into routine. Reports came in from the Quick Team and the Beacon. The boarders were a mix of hired hands and true believers. They had studied Dominion ships for a year. They had trained for that exact approach. Ward had read it in an instant. That fact found a home inside Vera's thoughts and stayed there, near night cycle. She asked for Ward again. This time, in a small briefing room with soft chairs and a table of smooth wood. When he entered, he looked cleaner, less pale. The doctors had found his blood strong and his bones sound. He sat when she gestured. The guards stood outside the door. I want to know your story, she said. Tell me from the start. Use simple words. He gazed at the table a moment, as if seeing the past there. The start is far behind me, he said, but I can tell you the sharp edges. We were many once. We moved out from a blue world full of water and wind. We built ships like the Dauntless, not beautiful, but brave. We made many mistakes. We fixed what we could and lived with what we couldn't. Isval, she asked softly. We forgot to be humble, he said, and then the stars stopped being kind. Did your people love war? He shook his head. We loved living. Sometimes that looked like war. Sometimes it looked like planting a garden and keeping it safe. The second was better. Vera watched him as he spoke. His words were simple. They felt like stones placed in a careful line. He did not try to make his people shine. He did not try to hide their dirt. He told the truth as he saw it. That was more persuasive than any poem. Do you know why we fear your kind? She asked. It is because the stories say you do not give up, even when you should. He almost smiled. Sometimes we should give up, he said, but someone always stands up anyway. Then everyone else does too. It looks like magic. It is not. It is practice. Vera leaned back. Practice. That word comforted her. It meant effort. It meant skill. It meant a path without mystery. The ship's intercom chimed. Your Highness, the officer of the watch said, small contacts returning at long range. It may be a probe, or a feint. Vera stood. Ward stood too, without being told. The guards opened the door. The three of them moved to the bridge. The contacts grew sharper on the board. They were not many, but their path was bold, straight toward the flagship. Too bold, they want to test us, Lord Care said. Or distract, Vera replied. She looked at Ward. He did not speak. He watched and waited. That surprised her again. He did not hurry to offer advice. He was careful. Hold steady, Vera said to her crew. Do not move to meet them. Let them show their true aim. The small contacts came closer, then split like sparks from a log. 2 went high, 2 went low, and 1 zipped dead center. The central one flared, then went dark. A decoy. The real one slid to the edges. The crew moved to respond, but Vera lifted a hand. Wait, she said. Count 10. They counted. On 9, 2 hidden blips appeared behind the decoy. Ward's mouth twitched. He looked at Vera with a flicker of respect. She had waited the right beat. Now, Vera said, paint them. The guns fired. Not to destroy, but to press. The probes pulled back at once. The small test ended like a wave touching a rock. The bridge relaxed. Ward glanced at her again. She did not look back. She kept her eyes on the map, but inside a quiet pride warmed her. She had learned one thing today. It was small, but it mattered. Ward turned to leave with the guards, but Vera spoke. "Captain Ward." He stopped. "Tomorrow," she said, "you will join a strategy session. You will not command. You will observe. You will offer views when asked. You will keep them simple. Do you agree?" "Yes," he said. "Good," she said. "Rest." He nodded and left. The bridge became calm again. The stars looked normal, yet the feeling of the day, the look in the crew's eyes, the new lines in Vera's thoughts, none of that was normal. The legend had become a person. The person had become a teacher. And the princess, who had loved order more than wonder, had allowed wonder to sit beside her for a while without losing her crown. As the ship turned to resume the patrol, Vera placed her hand on the rail once more. She watched the stars pass. She said, in a voice too small to share with anyone else, "Legends are not born. They are practiced." When she looked down at the map again, she saw the border not as a strict wall, but as a living line. It could bend, and it could hold. And she, who had dismissed human warriors as ghosts, had faced one. He had not begged for awe. He had not asked for anything. He had simply done the next right thing and shown her how. The alarm stayed silent. The engines sang their low song. Crew members smiled in quiet ways and returned to their tasks. The day's dust settled. Out in the dark, the rebels planned again, unaware that something had shifted on the royal flagship. Tomorrow would bring new trials. Tomorrow would bring hard choices. But tonight, on this clean and careful ship, a story changed shape. It became less about fear and more about courage. It became less about tidy lines and more about living hearts. Princess Vera did not yet believe in myths. She believed in people. And for the first time, the word human did not mean a frightening tale for children. It meant a captain with steady eyes who turned confusion into clarity. It meant a way of thinking that could save lives. It meant a path forward, one small, clear step at a time. She watched the stars a while longer. Then she said to the crew, "Well done," and let them hear the warmth in her voice. That warmth traveled down the halls and into the rooms where tired people rested. It floated in the ship's quiet hum, and it stayed. Part 2 would come, but for now, Part 1 ended where all good beginnings do, with a door open. A heart changed, and the promise of more. Princess Vera woke before the ship's decycle and stood by the viewport. The stars were quiet and sharp, like small fires far away. The flagship floated in a slow arc around the beacon, holding its post with calm pride. She lifted her hand and touched the cool glass. The night had been peaceful. That was strange after the day they had. Peace often hid something else, like breath taken before a race. Vera did not fear what came next. She had lived too long with clean plans and careful logic to fear surprises. But now she had something new inside her. Not fear, not pride, something like a living question. It kept her awake and honest. It also kept her ready. Lord Care entered the bridge at first light, calm as always. "Your Highness," he said, "the strategy session begins in 20 minutes. The officers are gathering." "Good," she said. "And the human?" "Captain Ward is awake. He completed a short fitness test and ate a light meal. The doctors say his strength is returning faster than expected." Vera nodded. Humans, it seemed, did not waste time being weak when they could be strong. She went to the strategy room and stood at the head of the table. The room was simple. Smooth wood, soft lights, a wall display, and a shelf with old books from a dozen worlds. The officers took their places. Some were older and cautious. Some were young and hungry. All had the calm eyes of people taught to control their minds and their hearts. Ward entered with 2 guards. He wore the same plain uniform as yesterday, now with a small patch at the shoulder so the crew could call him by name. He stood by the wall and folded his arms lightly. He did not lean. He did not fidget. He was present the way a sturdy door is present, not loud, but very real. Vera began in a clear voice. "We held the beacon yesterday. We prevented a boarding without injury. We were tested again last night and did not overreact." "Well done." Soft looks of pride passed between officers. She pointed to the wall display where a star map shone with thin lines. "But this is not over. The rebels will not give up." "Why would they? They almost surprised us." "They will try again, harder." The operations officer spoke. "We believe their command ship is hiding in the dust belt just beyond the beacon's shadow. It can use the dust to mask its heat and launch small raids. We cannot bomb the dust without risking civilian miners in the region." She folded her hands. "We need a cage that does not look like a cage." Vera nodded. "Ideas." The room offered careful options. A decoy convoy, lightly shielded to bait a strike. A false distress call on a rebel channel. A sensor net woven into the dust belt, thin as spider silk, to catch sudden movement. Each idea had merit. Each idea had cost. Ward stayed silent. He watched the officer speak. He looked at the display. He traced the lines with his eyes. Vera let the room talk. She was not eager to point at the human and say, "You speak." She would not make him a tool. If he had something to offer, he would offer it. After a pause, Lord Care asked with polite interest, "Captain Ward, do you have a view?" Ward lifted his gaze and met Vera's eyes first. She gave the smallest nod. He stepped forward to the edge of the table, careful not to touch anything. "You do not need a cage," he said in a simple tone. "You need a mirror." The room stilled. He drew a slow breath. "The rebels trust a pattern," he said. "They make us move where we do not want to move. We feel the pull, and we spend our time resisting it. That gives them time to set the real blow. So we must show them what they expect, and then reflect it back at them." "Explain," Vera said. "Let them think their plan is working," he said. "Show the decoy convoy. Show your escorts pulled thin. Let a false gap appear in your rear protection. But in that gap, you place something small and sharp, a silent team with eyes that see through dust. A hunter-killer craft," the weapons chief asked. Ward shook his head. "Not a gun. A lighthouse." The room frowned as one. "A lighthouse?" Vera asked. "A ship with a large, clean signal," Ward said. "Bright enough to drown the dust. Not fast, not armed for war. Just simple and honest and bright." He looked around at the puzzled officers. "When I was young, I learned to land planes in storms. On the coast, we watched 4 lighthouses. They did not fight the storm. They showed the truth. They made the sea clear." Lord Care's eyes warmed with interest. "You want to flood the dust belt with signal?" "Yes." "Use 3 small craft to emit coordinated pulses. The pulses will bounce off debris and make shadows into surfaces. The rebel command ship will think it is still hiding. But it will not understand that its wake is now a path you can read like writing. When it moves to strike the false gap, you will see the motion the moment it starts. Then you close the jaws. Calmly. Not chasing. Just standing in the right place." The engineers leaned forward, their minds turning. The operations officer's expression shifted, cautious, then curious, then impressed. "We can rig 3 survey skiffs to emit strong mapping pulses," she said. "They are not built for battle, but they can do light work with signal and drift. If they fly a triangle, their echoes could outline movement." "And the decoy convoy?" the tactics chief asked. "To cargo shells in a tug will do," Ward said. "Keep them empty. Fill the shells with chaff and foam. If the rebels hit them, they fill the void with harmless trash. Annoying, but not fatal." Vera watched the room. The officers were thinking not in fear, not in pride, but in problem-solving. Ward had given them a simple tool. He had not asked them to fight like humans. He had asked them to see better. That felt right. "We do not risk many lives with this," Vera said. "We do not lie in a way that harms civilians. We do not break law." "Good." She tapped the table. "Approve the lighthouse plan. Prepare the decoy. Operations take the lead. Captain Ward, you will sit with secondary defense again and watch. You will speak when asked. Ward inclined his head. Yes, Princess. The plan moved fast. The survey skiffs were small and plain, with fat bellies for instruments and stubby wings for small course corrections. Crews with steady hands climbed inside. The decoy convoy assembled near the beacon, 2 rough cargo shells and a tug painted in faded blue. They looked like easy prey. Vera almost laughed at the sight. It was like dressing a prince in a farm coat and telling him to whine for help in the spine channel. Crew members worked with quiet urgency. They ran cables, tested emitters, checked battery packs, and ran short simulations. The air buzzed with purpose. The ship felt alive. Before launch, Vera visited the secondary defense room. Ward stood at the rail again, eyes on the map. He looked like a chess player who had set the board and now must wait for the first move. She stood beside him, close enough to see the faint white scar across his jaw. It was a clean line, like a map marker of an old path. You have a calm face before storms, she said. He smiled a little. I learned to respect storms, he said. They do not care about my feelings. Do you miss Earth? She asked softly, surprising herself. Yes, he said, even if it is only in memory. I miss how rain sounded on tin roofs. I miss the way a street smells after thunder. I miss the taste of water from a cold tap. He looked at her. What do you miss when you are far from home? Vera had not thought about missing much. Duty did not ask for that. But the question opened a small door in her mind. I miss the wind in the palace gardens, she said. We have high walls of stone. The wind climbs them and comes down soft. It makes the leaves of the old trees whisper. When I was a child, I thought the trees were telling me secrets. Ward's eyes warmed. They were, he said. Trees know the oldest ones. She almost laughed. Then the intercom tone sounded bright and short. It was time. The survey skiffs drifted out of the bay like seeds on air. Their engines were quiet, barely a breath. They fell into a triangle pattern beyond the beacon's edge. The decoy convoy moved slow, engines weak, path sloppy on purpose. The flagship and its escorts held a neat formation, but let their rear screen show a soft place. Not a hole, not a flage, just a place that looked almost easy. Vera took the main chair and placed both hands on the rail. Begin the lighthouse, she said. The skiffs pulsed as one. A soft wave spread through the dust field. The dust shimmered like rain in moonlight. On the map, the dust belt changed from gray haze to a living texture, the way fog reveals shape when a light shines through it. The officers gasped softly. They were used to seeing numbers and lines. This was new. A way to look at the world that felt almost like touch. Hold pulses at a slow beat, Vera said. Let them think nothing changed. Minutes passed. The decoy convoy whined and rattled along, a helpless thing. The rebels watched. Patience met impatience across the dark. Then a movement. A small crease appeared in the dust, like a fish turning in shallow water. It was not much. It was the ghost of a wake. Ward's voice was quiet. There, he said. They're lining up. The command ship is heavy. It cannot move without leaving a mark. The skiffs are catching the push, the operations officer pointed. Reading it too? Angle 71 by -12. They will slide under the decoy, then up. A classic undercut. Vera kept her voice calm. All units hold, she said. Do not close early. Let them commit. The crease deepened. A second faint line formed, like a pen lifting and drawing again. Then, bright as a star in fog, a compact shape cut through the dust. The rebel command ship appeared as a faint outline, not visible to eyes but clear to the pulses. It had a knife-like bow and a fat engine ring. It moved with confidence. They thought they were clever, Vera thought. They were clever. So are we now, she said. Ease left 10 degrees. Escorts form a calm wall. Skiffs widen your triangle and increase pulse by 2. Do not blind them. Just draw the shadow sharp. The echoes grew clean. The rebels realized too late that they were seen. Their small raiders, hiding behind bits of rock, flared engines to make a cover, but that only painted brighter lines. The command ship had to choose: strike the decoy fast and flee, or cut off and run now without a prize. The rebels chose pride. They lunged. Vera did not shout. She did not order a chase. She let the tug pull the decoy shells into the path like two awkward barrels, and then ordered a slow roll, like a dancer turning to face a partner. The command ship fired to clear its way, burst the first shell, and the shell exploded into a waterfall of foam and harmless chaff that soaked its bow and filled the triangle with glitter. The lighthouse pulses caught the glitter and made it shine like a net. Boarding needles from the command ship, weapons chief reported. 5 launched, heading for our rear gap. Welcome them, Vera said. Secondary defense? Ready, the defense officer said. Quick teams at junctions. Non-lethal first. Ward leaned forward slightly. His voice stayed even. They will try the trick from yesterday, but smarter. They will fake a retreat and send 2 needles deeper in our blind angle. We do not chase the fake. We wait at the spine. Vera's eyes sharpened. Hold positions, she said into the internal net. Do not follow soft targets. The needles hit the hull with dull thuds. Cut lasers drew circles, one near the aft port again, another near the midline, a third low along the engineering trunk, and to where almost no one would expect, a maintenance vent near the old cargo, ring in a waste exchange access. Ward's mouth tightened. Clever, he said softly. They studied your uncommon doors. Quick teams moved like a quiet tide. The halls were calm, lights even, air cool. There was no panic. The guards were steady. The needles opened. Boarders in light suits stepped out, holding shock batons and hacking tools. No heavy weapons. They wanted control, not chaos. At the aft port. The quick team repeated yesterday's dance, polite words first, patience. Then a smooth step that took the boarder's surprise and made it a gift. At midline, the team used the ship's air system to send a small gust down the corridor to throw off the boarder's pellets. At engineering trunk, they dimmed lights for a count of 2 to break timing. At the old cargo ring, a single guard stood with an empty hand held out and simply talked until friends arrived. No one rushed. No one raised their voice, in the waste access of all places. 2 boarders slid through a narrow hatch and found themselves in a maze of pipes. They moved fast, quick like ants, confident they had found a blind spot. They turned a corner and froze. Captain Ward stood 6 steps away in the spine channel, a guard on either side, a small portable shield on his forearm. He did not point a weapon. He did not threaten. He simply stood in their path like a door. End of the line, he said. The 2 boarders glanced at each other. They had trained to fight guards, not face legends. But Ward's face was not a legend's face. It was plain and calm, like a teacher's before a hard exam. We don't want trouble, one boarder said, lifting an empty hand. The other kept his shock baton lowered. Then set your tools down, Ward said. They did not move. One of them shifted his weight just a little. Ward's eyes tracked it. He saw the pulse of a small jammer on the man's belt. He understood the next 3 steps before they took them. He raised his shield with a slow, easy motion. Don't, he said, not harsh, not loud. A long second passed. The boarders put their tools on the floor. Their shoulders sagged a little. The guard near Ward stepped forward and bound their wrists with soft ties. Thank you, Ward said, and he meant it. On the main bridge, the battle outside turned. The rebel command ship tried to break away, but the lighthouses made every move visible. Each burst of engine carved a bright path. Vera did not chase. She moved the flagship with small corrections, letting the enemy waste movement. The decoy tug cut a sharp arc to avoid the stumbling rebel bow and hid behind the beacon. Signal from the rebel command ship, the cum officer said. They are offering a truce to withdraw. They claim this was a lawful inspection. Also, they are very angry. Vera allowed herself a tiny smile. Accept their withdrawal, she said. But request they collect their boarders from our brig first. They can bring a peace pod and retrieve them in an hour. They will not like that, Lord Care said, amused. They do not have to like it, Vera replied. They only have to do it. The rebel ship hesitated. The lighthouses pulsed, bright and honest. The fog of the Dust Belt had become a room with clear walls and a high ceiling. There was no more hiding now. At last, the rebels sent a dry, bitter reply. "We will retrieve our people, under escort," Vera added. "In a clean pod, no tricks." 1 hour, came the answer. The room eased. Officers released breaths they had not known they were holding. The skiffs powered down their pulses and drifted back to safe positions. The decoy convoy settled near the beacon and turned off its foolish whining. The foam and chaff from the burst shell floated like glitter in the dark. It looked almost festive. Vera sat back. She felt the pleasant ache of work well done. She also felt something else. A strong respect that had begun small yesterday and now stood tall. She looked toward the secondary defense display and saw Ward's icon on the spine. She touched the cum. "Captain Ward," she said. His voice came warm and steady. "Princess." "Thank you," she said. The words were simple and clean. "Your lighthouse plan worked. It was your crew," he said. "They kept calm. They did the small right things." "Yes," she said, with a touch of pride. "They did." An hour later, the rebel peace pod arrived. A small, round craft with its weapons ports welded shut and a white light set above the hatch. The flagship guided it in with escort drones. The rebels took their captured boarders in silence. They did not meet anyone's eyes. They floated away into the dust belt, smaller than before, not humiliated but humbled. There is a difference. Vera understood that. She did not need to crush them. She only needed to end the harm. When the pod left, quiet settled like clean snow. Vera stood. "Stand down from battle stations," she said. "Return to patrol." The crew moved with soft smiles. They were proud without boasting. They had done something new today. They had used light to find truth. That felt good. Later, in the small briefing room with soft chairs and the smooth wood table, Vera invited Ward without guards. She did not do this lightly, but she believed in the person she had seen across 2 days, a man who knew storms. A man who could stand in a narrow hall and choose patience over power. Ward entered, paused, and looked at the walls as if measuring the room for stories. Vera poured water for both of them. It felt right to share that small thing. He took the glass with a small nod. He drank. She drank. They sat. "I want to understand something," she said. "Not how you fight. How you think. How you make choices when the plan breaks." Ward thought a moment. "I think like a builder," he said. "I look for strong points and weak points. I ask which parts of the problem are solid and which are soft. I try to touch the soft parts gently and push the strong parts into position." "That sounds so simple," she said. "It is simple," he replied. "Hard but simple. Most of the time the right move is small. Most of the time you do not need to be a hero. You only need to be steady." She smiled, a rare, brief thing. "Our poets said humans were fire. I think perhaps you are stone, or a hand on a wheel." "We have our fires," he said. "But fire without a wheel is just light and heat. A wheel without fire does not move. We try to use both." Vera looked at the window. The stars were the same, but she saw them differently again. "We have a saying," she said. "Legends are not born. They are practiced." "I like that," he said. "It leaves room for everyone." Quiet fell. It was not awkward. It was full. Vera placed her glass on the table. "I would like to offer you a post," she said. "You would be a foreign advisor to the Crown on matters of resilience, crisis, and practical strategy. You would have rank, but not command. You would teach others to see with a new light." Ward did not answer at once. He looked at the water in his glass as if it held a map. "I am one man," he said. "I cannot fix your world. I cannot even fix mine." "I did not ask you to fix a world," she said. "I asked you to help us practice." He lifted his gaze. There was a long, quiet pain in his eyes, but there was also a spark. "I can do that," he said. "If I may also use Dominion archives to search for news of Earth, or the remnants of my people." "You may," she said at once. "With care and respect for our laws, but you may." He nodded. "Then I accept." Vera stood and held out her hand. He stood and took it. His grip was firm but gentle. For a moment they were simply two people who had walked through a storm and come out on the other side with new eyes. News of the day spread across the fleet. Not a triumph shouted from towers, but a practical victory told in mess halls and repair bays. "We used light to see," the crew said. "We waited. We did not chase. We were steady." People felt taller without standing taller. They slept better without sleeping longer. In the days that followed, Ward walked the ship with a small tablet and a quiet smile. He visited engineering, medical, navigation, and the mess. He asked questions that sounded simple, but made people think. What do you do if the map fails? Where do you keep your extra tools? What will you try first if the door does not open? He taught small drills, how to count breaths in a crisis, how to name 3 solid things in a room to calm fear, how to write a clean plan on one page so anyone could follow it in the dark. The crew listened. They practiced. They liked him, not because he was a legend, but because he made hard things simpler. Vera watched this with quiet joy. She had found in Ward not a savior and not a weapon, but a method. A way of thinking that made her people stronger without making them cruel. This was the kind of power she loved, even if she had never had a name for it. One evening, in the palace garden of her memory, Vera imagined the soft wind through old leaves, and she asked the air a question. What is a warrior? The answer came without poetry. A person who chooses the next right thing and teaches others to do the same. Weeks later, the rebels tried one more time. They sent a larger fleet with a new trick. False stars' tiny reflectors released like seeds to blind sensors. But the Dominion had learned. The lighthouses pulsed, and the false stars turned into lines on the map. The fleet held steady, and the rebels found their fury broken against a calm wall. There was no grand spectacle, no famous duel. There was only discipline, clarity, and mercy. The rebels withdrew again, and this time, some of them sent secret messages asking about terms for peace. Vera kept those messages private for the moment. Peace could not be rushed. It needed a good floor, a strong frame, and honest light in the data archives. Ward searched for Earth. He found fragments. A trade log here. A song lyric there. A long, slow radio hum that might once have been a weather report. He found mention of a colony that might be human, hidden somewhere beyond a burnt red star. He did not jump for it. He added it to a patient list. He would go there one day. He would go with allies and food, not with guns. On a quiet watch, Vera stood again at the viewport. Ward joined her. They did not speak at first. They looked out at the stars like partners looking at a garden that needed care. "I learned something from you," she said at last. "Not about humans. About myself. I thought I loved order because it made me strong. I learned I love order because it lets me be kind." Ward nodded. "Me too," he said. "I used to fight because I was angry. Now, I try to fight like a builder. With gentle hands when I can. With firm hands when I must." She glanced at him with a small smile. "And with lighthouses?" "And with lighthouses," he agreed. They stood in easy silence. The ship hummed. The crew worked. The beacon shone. The dust belt glowed faintly where the skiffs had made their patient light. Somewhere far away, people slept and woke and told stories. Vera thought about stories. Once, she had dismissed human warriors as legends' loud tales told to scare or to inspire. Now she had met one and learned he was neither monster nor miracle. He was human, strong, flawed, patient, fierce in quiet ways, and generous with what he knew. She spoke softly, almost to herself. "Legends endure," she said, "but people teach." Ward heard her and nodded. "And people learn," he said, "in the ship's records." The day's report was short and clean. Enemy attempt to seize Beacon 13 repelled with minimal force. New sensor technique effective? No casualties. Morale high. There was no line for the change in the princess's heart or for the steady warmth in the crew's eyes. or for the gentle way a human captain spoke to frightened boarders in a narrow hall. But those things were there, quiet and strong. It's part of the living ship now. Some nights later, Vera sat in her private room. The small one with a single chair and a table of stone. She opened an old book given by her mother, a book of questions. The page she turned to asked, "What is a flame?" She took a pen and wrote in the margin, "A light you share so others can see." Then she closed the book and smiled. Ward, in his own small room, looked at the stars and hummed a tune he had not sung for years. It was a simple human song about coming home after hard work. He did not know where home was now, but he knew what the work was. He knew how to do it. On the next patrol, the flagship moved with grace. The crew's steps matched the ship's heartbeat. The beacon blinked like a steady eye. And when trouble came again, as trouble always does, the people aboard did not panic. They did not look for heroes to save them. They lit their lighthouses. They kept their hands quiet. And they did the next right thing. That was the victory Princess Vera wanted most. Not a trophy, not a story carved in gold, but a habit of mind and heart. It would spread from ship to ship, from station to station, from city to quiet farm. It would turn myths into practice. It would let mercy and strength walk together, and one day, when Ward set out to find what remained of his people, he would go with more than maps and fuel. He would go with lighthouses of a different kind, friends who knew how to see in storms, who had learned to be steady, who understood that the best kind of power is the kind that keeps others safe. He would leave a letter for Vera on the old stone table. It would be short. "Princess," it would say, "thank you for letting me teach and learn. If I find a piece of earth, I will send you a small stone from a river and a leaf from a tree. And if I find only sky, I will send you a story about the wind in a garden." Elias. And Vera would read it in the garden of the palace on a day when the wind climbed the walls and came down soft, and the old trees would whisper. She would close her eyes and listen. She would hear in the leaves the sound of a calm hand on a wheel, a pulse of honest light, and a patient voice saying, "We are not legends. We are people." And that is enough. That is how the story would end. Not with a roar, but with a steady flame bright enough to see by,
Now warm enough to share,
and strong enough to endure.